Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the operating system running your computer, the one you've used without a second thought for the past 2 decades, has quietly been losing the war. Not in some distant future, not in a theoretical projection from a tech analyst who gets paid to be optimistic, but right now, today, in the exact months you're living, in government ministries, in corporate boardrooms, in the hands of millions of everyday gamers who just wanted to play their favorite titles without asking anyone's permission, something has shifted. And the strangest part, most people still haven't noticed it happening. I want to tell you about that shift today, not as a Linux enthusiast who has been waiting for this moment for years, not as someone trying to sell you on switching your operating system, but as someone who has been watching the data carefully, and what the data says in 2026 is genuinely extraordinary. Let's start with a number that almost nobody in the mainstream technology conversation has properly reckoned with. In March of 2026, Hard Linux crossed 5.33% market share on the Steam gaming platform. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's it? That's the big story? Windows still owns 66% of Steam. Even the dead and buried Windows 10, a system Microsoft officially end-of-lifed in October 2025, still clings to 27% of Steam users who simply refuse to go along with Microsoft's upgrade ultimatum. So what does 5.33% mean in the context of those numbers? Here's what it means. In 2015, Linux gaming on Steam barely registered. For an entire decade. Not a year, not 2 years, but 10 full years. It hovered below 1%, clinging to existence as a platform that the gaming industry had not just dismissed, but essentially forgotten to even mock. It was invisible. And then Valve released the Steam Deck. And in the years that followed, Linux gaming on Steam tripled. Not over a decade, tripled in a sustained, accelerating climb that transformed a curiosity into something that the largest hardware manufacturers on Earth can no longer afford to look away from. At CES 2026, Lenovo walked onto that stage in Las Vegas and announced the Legion Go 2, not running Windows, not offering Linux as a secondary menu option buried 3 clicks deep, running Steam OS, Valve's Linux-based operating system, as the primary, default, and only operating system on a premium gaming handheld from one of the largest PC companies in the world. The audience did not laugh. The audience applauded. That applause matters more than any percentage point, because market share data is a lagging indicator. It tells you what the world looked like 6 months ago, what major hardware manufacturers are putting on their product. Roadmaps tells you exactly where things are going. And what is on those roadmaps right now? Valve preparing a new Steam Machine desktop PC targeting 4K gaming, multiple other manufacturers following Lenovo's trail into Steam OS-powered devices, a hardware ecosystem building momentum that nobody outside the Linux community predicted, would have been completely unthinkable in 2021. The technology underneath all of this has a name, and understanding that name is essential to understanding why everything about this moment is different from every previous moment when someone predicted Linux was about to break through. That name is Proton. Proton is a compatibility layer developed by Valve that allows games built exclusively for Windows to run on Linux without any changes from the game developer, no porting, no rewriting, no waiting years for a Linux version that might never come. You purchase a Windows game, and Proton translates it in real time, seamlessly, so it runs on Linux as though it had always belonged there. Proton 9.0, released earlier in 2026, already carries more than 90% of Steam's top 1,000 games with Platinum or Gold compatibility ratings, meaning they run perfectly or with issues so minor they don't affect gameplay in any meaningful way. The community database, ProtonDB, which collects real-world compatibility reports across Steam's entire catalog, reports that 89% of the more than 150,000 games analyzed run on Linux through Proton. We are talking about Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring Baldur's Gate 3, games representing the absolute pinnacle of modern game development, running with performance directly comparable to native Windows on equivalent hardware. And then there's Proton 11, currently in public beta as of May 2026, which pushes even further. It is built on Wine 11 with NT-Sync kernel driver support, moving pieces of Windows synchronization model directly into the Linux kernel to reduce CPU overhead and improve frame consistency across thousands of titles. It introduces ARM64 builds. That last detail is a signal worth paying attention to. Valve is already planning beyond the current x86 architecture toward the hardware that will define gaming years from now. The question that defined Linux gaming for a decade, can it even run my games, has been retired. The more interesting question now is, what would you actually need to give up to live entirely without Windows? And for a gaming population that grows every single month, the honest answer is increasingly very little. But gaming is only one thread in a much larger story. The most consequential chapter of the Linux narrative in 2026 is not about gamers. It is not about technology enthusiasts, or open source idealists, or developers who have always preferred the terminal to the start menu. It is about governments. It is about organizations managing hundreds of thousands of computers, with budgets measured in billions of euros, making structural decisions that are practically irreversible once made, and making them in writing, with legal mandates and real migration timelines attached. France, 68 million people. The French government has issued a directive requiring every ministry to submit a Linux migration plan before autumn of 2026. Not a voluntary pilot program, not an exploratory initiative. A legally enforceable mandate covering 2.5 million Windows workstations, scheduled for migration. And before anyone dismisses this as bureaucratic theater, understand that the French National Gendarmerie has been running Linux since 2008 on more than 100,000 workstations, saving 2 million euros per year in licensing costs. That is not a proof of concept anymore. That is 15 years of operational evidence at massive scale. When French government ministers say Linux is ready, they are saying it from 15 years of lived institutional experience. Germany's state of Schleswig-Holstein has committed to migrating 30,000 government workstations to Linux and LibreOffice. Denmark has launched a comparable initiative. Switzerland passed legislation requiring that software developed with public funding be published as open source code and committed 231 million francs to building sovereign national cloud infrastructure. These decisions are not being made by idealists. They are being made by finance ministers and heads of state who looked at a spreadsheet, read a security briefing, and concluded that the era of paying a foreign corporation to control their country's digital infrastructure has to end. And the word that appears in every single one of these documents, in every corporate migration announcement, in every national technology strategy published anywhere in the first half of 2026, is sovereignty. Digital sovereignty. The idea that a nation, a company, or an individual should have genuine, substantive control over the technology they depend on every day. A government's operating system should not be a closed black box owned by a corporation in another country, subject to that corporation's pricing decisions, its update policies, its data collection practices, its choices about what governments can actually do with hardware they purchased with public money. Linux answers the sovereignty question in a way no proprietary system can. Every line of its source code is public. Any organization can read it, audit it independently, modify it for their specific needs, and verify that it does exactly what it claims to do. No hidden telemetry embedded in places you cannot inspect, no forced installation of features you never asked for. Just transparent, auditable code maintained by a global community that owes no favors to any corporation. Layer onto this the economic reality of 2026. Hardware prices have surged dramatically across every component category. DDR5, RAM, graphics cards, solid-state drives, all experiencing significant inflation simultaneously. And against that backdrop, Windows 11's hardware requirements, the 240 to 400 million computers Microsoft declared incompatible because they lack a specific security chip, stopped being an inconvenience and became a real economic barrier for hundreds of millions of people. Replacing a perfectly functional computer to run Windows 11 can mean spending 400, 500, or more than 1,000 euros in a market where every component has gotten more expensive. Staying on Windows 10 after October 2025 means running a system without security patches, with every passing week expanding the vulnerability window. Linux eliminates this calculation entirely. Linux Mint runs faster on older hardware than Windows 11 runs on newer machines. Enterprise performance tests from 2025 showed Linux outperforming Windows 11 by nearly 20% on everyday productivity tasks using identical hardware. The financial case for migrating is no longer simply ideological. It is arithmetically obvious to anyone who cares to run the numbers. And then there is the argument that held Windows in place through 2 complete decades. The software ecosystem. The "but my applications don't run on Linux" argument. For 20 years, that argument ended the conversation. And piece by piece, in ways that were almost invisible until you looked back and realized how much had changed, it has been dismantled. The browser argument fell first. Chrome, Firefox, and Brave all maintain full Linux support with complete feature parity. The productivity tools argument followed. LibreOffice handles Microsoft Office formats with compatibility sufficient for the overwhelming majority of everyday workflows. The communication tools argument followed that. Spotify, Discord, Telegram, Zoom, and Slack all maintain officially supported native Linux clients. DaVinci Resolve, the professional video editing suite used in major Hollywood productions, has run natively on Linux for years. Professional designers are doing real client work in GIMP, Krita, and Inkscape, tools that have matured into genuinely capable creative applications that close the gap with Adobe's ecosystem at a pace the industry underestimated. And gaming. The last completely unassailable stronghold of Windows loyalty, the argument that ended Linux desktop debates without possibility of rebuttal, for as long as anyone could remember, that wall is fracturing. It is fracturing under the combined weight of Proton, the Steam Deck, the Legion Go 2, the upcoming Steam machine, and a native Linux-certified game library of more than 24,000 titles that grows every month without pause. The argument that kept millions of users on Windows for the sake of their games is no longer the argument it used to be. What makes this particular moment dangerous for the established order, in a way that no previous wave of Linux enthusiasm ever was, and there have been many waves over 35 years. All I admit is that the historically decisive barriers have not merely been addressed, they have collapsed. Hardware compatibility has reached the point where user-friendly distributions install correctly on the overwhelming majority of modern computers without any manual configuration. Framework laptops, built around repairability and longevity, treat Linux support as a primary engineering requirement, not an afterthought. System 76 and Tuxedo computers build hardware with Linux as the foundational platform from the ground up. Dell includes Ubuntu as a factory pre-installed option on its XPS developer line. The ecosystem for purchasing a computer that runs Linux reliably out of the box is better and more accessible in 2026 than at any previous point in the platform's history. The installation process, which once required a multi-step technical guide and a considerable willingness to accept that things might go catastrophically wrong, now takes between 20 and 40 minutes on most hardware. You answer setup questions about language, time zone, username, and password. You wait, you restart. That is the entire process. No product activation key to locate, no mandatory account to create, no subscription to agree to, no artificial intelligence assistant appearing uninvited in every corner of your interface, inserting itself into tasks you are perfectly capable of completing on your own. The Linux kernel itself continues advancing at a pace that should embarrass every proprietary operating system on the market. Recent kernel updates have delivered CPU scheduler improvements of up to 44% on specific workloads. Linux kernel 7.0, released in April 2026, maintains the extraordinary development velocity that has defined this project across its entire history, with contributions from thousands of engineers working at Google, Intel, AMD, Red Hat, Valve, and dozens of other companies. The transition from the legacy X11 display system to Wayland, a migration the Linux community debated inconclusively for years, has now reached the point where major distributions ship Wayland as the default. Wayland delivers HDR support, variable refresh rate handling, and dramatically improved multi-monitor management. The desktop environments built on these foundations have reached a level of visual polish that genuinely surprises anyone whose last experience with Linux was even 3 or 4 years ago. There is one more dimension to this story, and it may ultimately be the most significant of all, though it receives the least coverage in mainstream technology discussions. Linux does not merely power most of the world's servers. It powers virtually all of the infrastructure on which the artificial intelligence revolution is being built right now. Every major language model, every image generation system, every voice recognition engine, every recommendation algorithm, shaping what billions of people see and read and buy, all of it is trained on Linux. Every major cloud platform, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, the digital infrastructure on which the modern global economy depends, runs on Linux. All 500 of the world's most powerful supercomputers, every single one without exception, have run Linux since 2017. And that 100% dominance of the category has never wavered for a single reporting period. 90% of cloud-native developers build and deploy their applications in Linux environments. 78% of all web servers worldwide run Linux. The Stack Overflow Developer Survey for 2025 found that 27.8% of respondents use Ubuntu for personal computing. In 2023, Linux represented 43% of operating systems used for software development globally. The people building the technology that will define the next 20 years are building it on Linux, and a growing portion of them are also doing their everyday personal computing on Linux, not out of obligation, but out of genuine preference. This creates a compounding dynamic that market share percentages cannot capture properly. When the developers choose a platform, they build for it more readily. They optimize for it more carefully. They advocate for it within their organizations more naturally. The platform gains depth and capability in ways that feel invisible from the outside, until suddenly, as is happening now, the accumulated depth becomes impossible to deny. So what does all of this mean together, and why is this particular moment in 2026 genuinely different from every previous moment when people confidently announced that Linux was about to change everything? Let's be honest about what is not being claimed here. Windows is not finished. Windows still controls approximately 70% of the global desktop market. For specific professional workflows, certain engineering software, enterprise legacy applications without Linux equivalents, in particular creative tools that have not been ported. Windows remains necessary for specific users and specific contexts. Anyone claiming the imminent death of Windows is either not being honest or not being careful. What is being claimed, what the accumulated evidence from the first half of 2026 makes impossible to credibly deny, is that Linux has crossed a threshold of genuine competitive viability for the established order that it has never crossed before. Not because Linux users became louder overnight, not because of a corporate marketing campaign, but because the platform has quietly, patiently, and relentlessly crossed a series of critical thresholds. In gaming through Proton, in hardware through OEM manufacturer commitments, in government adoption through France and Germany and Switzerland, in enterprise readiness through 15-year track records and fresh economic logic, in developer preference through every survey conducted in the past 3 years, that have collectively moved it from a brave philosophical alternative to the first genuinely credible choice for a growing and accelerating slice of the computing world. Current trajectories place Linux at 6% global desktop share before the end of 2026. A number that would have sounded like wishful fantasy 3 years ago now appears not just achievable, but probably conservative, given everything currently in motion. And waiting behind that trajectory is a second wave of pressure that has already been written into the calendar. Microsoft's paid, extended security update program for Windows 10 expires in October 2026. Another cohort of users will face the same difficult choice that drove the first migration wave. Invest in new hardware to meet Windows 11's requirements, continue paying Microsoft, or try something different. More of them than ever before will discover that something different installs in 30 minutes, runs faster than what they replaced, costs absolutely nothing, does not harvest their data, and does not install an AI assistant in their taskbar without asking. The users finding Linux in 2026 are not finding the Linux of the past. They are not finding a platform that demands sacrifice and technical fluency in exchange for philosophical purity. They are finding an operating system that respects the hardware they already own, the money they have already spent, and the autonomy that should never have required a fight in the first place. 35 years of patient, methodical, community-driven work have accumulated into something that has genuine, unstoppable momentum. The infrastructure of the entire digital world already chose Linux. The developers building tomorrow's technology have already chosen Linux. The governments responsible for managing public digital infrastructure are actively choosing Linux right now, with signed mandates and real budget allocations behind those choices. And ordinary people who simply want a computer that works, that doesn't install software they never requested, that doesn't demand new hardware to run an operating system they never wanted, that doesn't treat them as a data source to be monetized rather than a person who deserves basic respect, are finding Linux in numbers that grow every single month without exception. The Linux desktop did not announce its arrival with a press conference. It did not arrive with a billion-dollar marketing campaign. It arrived the way all genuinely transformative changes arrive, quietly, incrementally, building on foundations laid over decades, until one day you look at the evidence and realize that the question has already been answered. The question that used to get people laughed out of strategy meetings, do we actually still need Windows, is being answered in writing with real budgets and real timelines by the governments and institutions and hardware manufacturers whose decisions actually move the world. For 35 years, Linux built the internet. It built the cloud. It built the AI revolution. It ran the most powerful computers on Earth. And through all of it, the desktop waited, patiently, stubbornly, with the same quiet determination that has always defined this platform. That moment arrived. It is not approaching on the horizon. It is already here, in these months, in these migration mandates, in these hardware launches, in the gaming sessions of millions of players who discovered that everything they love runs beautifully on a platform they were told would never be ready. Linux is not asking for permission anymore, and that changes everything.